What is up, YouTube? In this new video for the NFL Week 2 predictions, I bring on my buddy Alex. We talk about each and every single game. The first one I did, we brought in a couple people from Stream, Jack and Joel. This one was a lot of fun. It's really cool to get to include a good friend of mine in this. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Like I said last time, this is going to be something we do every week. Can't wait for week freaking 2 starting tonight. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to the video. Good. How's it going, Alex?
Jason, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
So we are going to get into every single game. We're going from Thursday night football to the Monday night games. Started with tonight's game of the Vikings-Eagles. Alex, what do you think on that one?
Well, look, Jay, the last two times these two teams have played, especially in Philadelphia, it's been a one-sided show in favor of the Eagles. Last year, it was 41-7. When we look at the, NFC title game back in 2018, Philadelphia ran away with it, somewhat of a similar score. They won by more than 30 points. The point is that Philadelphia is favored. Philadelphia is the better team. And honestly, Jay, I'm not shocked if Philadelphia just comes out, starts strong, plays a full 60 minutes, and blows Minnesota all the way back to Minneapolis. I mean, it's going to be a one-sided affair. Minnesota's not a terrible team. Now they, lost their game versus Tampa Bay, and Kirk Cousins actually looked really good. But we all know how Kirk Cousins does when, we all know how Kirk Cousins plays when it's not Thursday or Monday. He's awful on prime time. So expect that again, but on top of the reason why is because how good this Philadelphia team is. And Jalen Hurts wasn't the best, but in the first 15 minutes versus New England, Philadelphia was really rock solid on the defense and the offense. If they can start similar and build that for 60 total minutes, it'll be Philly all the way through tonight.
I agree with it. I mean, obviously based on that last performance, like from the Eagles, it does scare you a little potentially taking the Eagles because obviously they struggled against the Patriots, and honestly, the Patriots probably should have won that game if they kicked those field goals.
No,
But I think
yeah.
I think the Eagles come out hungry tonight, and I'm gonna be honest, there's no way that they could be happy with how they performed against the Patriots. I think they're gonna. I could see it being a pretty high scoring, potentially even a steamroll game. Not that the Vikings are bad, but look, they did take a serious step back from last year. They lost Dalvin Cook. They lost Thielen. Obviously Cousins vanishes in those big situations. So I'm just gonna have to go with the Eagles on this one. I expect a big night from either Devontae Smith or AJ Brown.
Well, look, again, it's going to be a one-sided affair. Look, Minnesota, don't count them out completely. Guaranteed they lost this game to Tampa Bay. And again, I don't think they're going to win this game versus Philadelphia. But what I mean by don't count them out is don't count them out all the way through. Now, they're a good regular season team. They'll probably win 10 games, maybe 9 games, maybe even 12 again. Who knows how much they'll actually win. But they're not going to be a 500 below team. They'll probably make the postseason, but like always, collapse in round one. So personally, for me, yeah, I think it'll just be Philadelphia going through.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about week 1 for the Vikings was it was a lot more of the Bucks and Baker playing really good than the Vikings being bad that week. I thought the Bucks just played a phenomenal game.
And they did. And look, I mean, their defense played solid in the top moments, and Baker was very, very good. But let's not forget, Kirk Cousins threw over 340 yards, and Justin Jefferson had more than 130 yards following the first 30 minutes. So the part of it is really on Minnesota. Now Minnesota could shock the world and make this more close than expected. But if you look at previous history, when these two teams face off on Thursday night in Philadelphia, it does not go well for the Vikings. And again, for Kirk Cousins, when he does not play on Sunday, when he plays on Monday or Thursday, things are not pretty for him. So when you look at the history standards for it, the Vikings are destined to lose. But who knows? Maybe they shock things, they turn things around, and maybe they pull one out of Philadelphia.
Yep. Hey, it's gonna be a fun game tonight. The next one I want to get into because I'm curious to hear what you think on this one, especially after how week 1 went for them, and it's a big division battle in Cincy. We got Ravens Bengals. What do you think on that one?
Well, look, that is a must-win for Cincy, I think. And the fact that Baltimore is coming off the win despite losing J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore is favored. And look, it's only one game. It's only week 2 upcoming. Baltimore played great. We all know how bad Cincinnati played. But for a guy like Joe Burrow, who just got this massive contract a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when you look at the game that he played in week 1 and now going into week 2, this is a massive division game in the second week of the season. And if you are Joe Burrow, let's say you lose the game, you got to lose respectively. But at the
Yep.
same time, Joe Burrow has to put up solid stats. He can't throw under 100 yards and have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have next to nothing stats as well.
100%.
So this has to be a complete offensive reboot in week 2 versus Baltimore. And if you are the Ravens, guaranteed you lost J.K. Dobbins, test out those guys in, Odell Beckham Jr. and the rest of those receivers who you brought in. And Lamar Jackson
Yep.
looked pretty decent,
Yes,
solid
he did.
versus Houston. So if you're the Ravens offense, keep going what you did in week 1. And if you're that Ravens defense, follow the playbook of the Browns. Get pressure to Joe Burrow, make him struggle, and if you have to, bench him for a second straight game.
Yes, I agree. The one thing I will say, Ravens first half was very slow for them in that first game. Obviously, it
Yeah.
was 7-6. That, in my opinion, is really just not a good performance against a young Texans team that, you really should probably be beaten up on. And we'll get into that when we talk about them in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna be good. And but with Burrow, dude, he got that massive contract. He really, I mean, if he starts out 0-2 after getting that massive contract, I think that's gonna be a really bad look for him.
I
Not
mean, look, it's a bad look. Don't get me wrong, Jason here, but let's keep in mind last year they started 0-2, and we were
Yes.
all worried. Oh no, what's wrong with Cincy? Are they going to be bad? Will they miss out? Were they a fluke team the year previous when they made the Super Bowl and lost? But they beat the Jets and they were able
Yeah.
to turn things around. And yet again, they made the AFC Championship game last season. So
Yes.
this could be a similar fate in 2023. But you can't bank on that if you're Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati
No,
Bengals.
100%. If you go in with that mindset, that's probably gonna backfire on you if you're Joe Burrow. Look, the one thing is, and we talked about it a few nights ago. Yes, they started 0-2, but in neither of those performances did they only put up 3 points, and Joe Burrow got 86 yards. That did not happen in either of those games last year, which makes me wonder if maybe he's still feeling that calf injury, or something's going on, because he wasn't even trying to run the ball like he usually did. So I do wonder if there is something going on. But you lose to the Browns, and then if you lose to Baltimore, you're 0-2 and you lost both division games already to start the season. It's not a good sign for how the year is going to be, in my opinion. I know it's only 2 weeks in, but like I said, I think this is a must. I think this feels like a must win for Cincy. And
No,
I
you're right on the money there. And the fact that we're saying must win in week 2, I think says a lot.
Yeah.
But still, when you lose those 2 division games in the first 2 weeks, let's say
Yeah.
that happens for the Bengals, that's hard to catch up on when you're trying to make a playoff race or you're trying to just win the division. And those 2 opening games are against you. And you fast forward all these weeks later, and those 2 games can make or break whether you either win
Yes.
the division, make the playoffs, get a wild card, what have you.
Yeah. And one thing I'm gonna say is, usually, obviously, the first 2 weeks, it's not gonna make or break your season. But I feel like this year is a different story for them, just because obviously the Ravens are good. You got, I mean, it is week 1, and they could end up doing what the Cleveland Browns always do. But this seems like a much improved Cleveland Browns team. And if you start losing these division games, there's a chance you could lose out on a tiebreaker. It's hard to catch ground and, get yourself back into that playoff spot if you start losing early, especially if your division's getting better. So, obviously not saying it's not an important game for the Ravens, but I think this is a much more important game for the Bengals to, really keep themselves in a good place.
No, you're right. You're right on the money there too. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that game. But if you are Cincy, if you even lose the game,
Yeah.
you got to make it respectable. And if you're Joe Burrow, you cannot have that lackluster performance for a second straight week.
No, 100%. And before we move on from this game, the last thing I'll say is because this is a must. You have to get T. Higgins involved. That is a must. The fact that the guy had no receptions is not good. I mean,
Right.
if you're not able to get him the ball, everybody pretty much knows where else you're going to go. They know you're going to go to Jamar Chase, which means he's going to get covered extra. And, it's just, it's a recipe for disaster. There's no way you win a game just targeting one guy the entire time. So, you know, they deserve to lose that game. They played really poorly, and I understand the weather there, but only one team was affected. The Browns did not let that get to them at all. It was just Cincy affected. So
I mean, they're in the same state. They both play in the same state. They
yep,
played in the same weather conditions. So
yeah,
I don't think you even blame weather. You blame the Browns being much better than the Bengals and Joe Burrow having a really off day.
yeah. That is
Simple as
something
that.
I never thought I would be able to say with these last couple of years that the Browns look better than them. But, like all together, we do know there's a weird history there of no matter how bad the Cleveland Browns are, somehow they always play really good against the Bengals.
That's true.
Um,
You're not wrong.
Usually doesn't show by the end of the season that they're better than the Bengals, but they do play them very well. Um, the next game I would like to get into, and I think it's going to be a really fun game, and this is a team I'm actually taking in my survivor pool this week, because I didn't like how he looked last week. The Seahawks versus the Lions. I took the Lions this week. I'm curious on what you think of that game.
Detroit for sure. The fact that Detroit went into Kansas City, expected to be competitive and lose, but they were
Yeah,
competitive and they just won the game
yeah,
by a slim 1 point margin. They're coming off the high. Now, guaranteed they've not played in more than 7 days, but this Detroit team played very, very well against
yes,
Mahomes, Kansas City, those defending Super Bowl champions. So I think it's going to be a great matchup for Detroit. Jared Goff looked phenomenal. Their defense was solid. And Detroit overall just had a great team composure. I mean, they had nothing to lose, and they end up winning the game. And,
yep,
with how impressive they were, how can you not see them continuing that at home versus a Seahawks team that lost Tyler Lockett to a concussion? Geno
yep,
Smith was a little flaky, and the Rams shocked Seattle in their own building. So
yep,
Seattle's got to go all the way from the West Coast, travel towards the Motor City for this game. They know the stakes are going to be high. They know Detroit's going to be on fire. Their fans are going to be so passionate about this game to see them go 2-0. I mean, it is Detroit's game to lose. And for
yep.
Seattle, I mean, it's sort of a must-win early, but I just don't see them winning this game with how hot the Lions are entering this Sunday matchup.
No, 100%. The Lions with that win against the Chiefs have all the momentum. They got a great team now. David Montgomery.
Mhm.
I think that kid Gibbs is incredible. He's really fast. I'm sure you probably saw a couple of the clips of him from
Yeah.
that game. Obviously you got St. Brown. That dude is a beast out there.
You
Um,
know, when you flash back about 2, 3 years ago, whatever it was, when Jared Goff got traded to Detroit, you would have thought, okay, his career is going down the tubes and
yeah,
he'll be a backup somewhere else, maybe there for 1 year, and then he'll go somewhere as a backup for the rest
yep.
of his career. Jared Goff is the guy in Detroit,
Oh yeah,
and he has been one of the key focal points, along with Dan Campbell and the GM, and how they've been able to turn things around. But Jared Goff has been so instrumental in this Lion resurgence the past couple of years.
yep,
And to see them start so strong versus Mahomes, I mean, he had that great touchdown pass, but the way he just leads that offense. I mean, Detroit's
yes,
offense is so dangerous, not just in the air, but on the ground. You mentioned Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, those two guys, great running backs. Montgomery had a great debut for the Lions in Kansas City. And, this is just a complete offensive team. And when your quarterback is really, all in for this one team and he's all
yep.
in to see what they can do, that leads to success. And that's what Jared Goff has done last year, and that's what he showed in week 1 versus Mahomes and company.
No, 100%. And it's the little things, the little additions that they even made to the offense. That tight end Laporta looks good.
Yeah.
What's his name? I know he didn't have a great week 1, but I think he'll turn around throughout the rest of the season. They brought back Marvin Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Um, you
Well, I
know,
mean, the fact that they traded away TJ Hawkinson last
yeah,
year almost made the playoffs after that trade. And now they bring in Laporta to play that tight end role. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, but he was still very solid, had some great blocks, very efficient tight end for this offense. So you lose Hawkinson, Laporta replaces him, and so far it has worked out for Detroit by almost making the postseason last year.
yep.
And so far this year, they're expected to be a lot better than Minnesota in some regards.
Yes. Yeah, no, obviously I think a lot of people are a little worried that during the offseason, probably with them losing Jamal Williams and Swift. But to be honest, from what I've seen so far, Montgomery and Gibbs, I think that's a better duo. I really do.
I mean, it's been better so far only in one game, but if you look at it, Jason, they lose Williams, they lose Swift, but the persistence they had to attract Montgomery and take Gibbs so high at number 12, it
Yes.
shows, how attractive they've become this past year or so.
Oh
And the
yeah.
fact that they're also willing to give cash to a guy like Montgomery, pay him for a long-term contract. If you're David Montgomery and you have the chance to start after losing your job in Chicago, why not go to a hot team like Detroit, who's on the come up recently?
Yeah,
So
no,
for
100%.
Montgomery, it's a no-brainer decision this past offseason, and it paid out so far in that victory versus Kansas City.
100%. Yeah, I just, especially with no Lockett, and look, I know Metcalf's a great player, but I look at the two offenses, and there's nobody on, you could really compare, when it comes to like St. Brown to anybody on that Seahawks team. I just don't see it. So I'm gonna go with the Lions as well. The next game, and I wish we didn't have to cover it. It's the game that I'm, probably the nap time game of the week. The Colts and Texans. And I'm curious what you think on this one.
It might be a nap time for some people, but if you're looking at, future NFL quarterback success stories potentially and two young guys who could really rise up in the league later on in their careers or maybe even right now, you've got Anthony Richardson for the Colts and C.J. Stroud for the Texans. So really, it's a really good battle of who's the better young quarterback so far, and they're going head-to-head for the first time ever as
Yep.
NFL quarterbacks. Let's also keep this in mind. Stroud was the 2nd overall pick back in April.
Yep.
Richardson was the 4th overall pick back in April. So these two teams who are towards the bottom, they're not good teams. Their defenses are not pretty. They're going to have most likely tough years again,
Yep.
but you see their future stock when it comes to Richardson for the Colts and Stroud for the Texans. This is a really good matchup in that sense to see these two young guys go at it for the first time. And these are two young guys who could be, division rivals for the next 10, 15
No,
years.
you are right on that. And obviously, I feel like, 2nd overall pick versus 4th overall pick, that creates some competition between the two as well. And
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe it could create some fun watching those two teams play. Again, you watch the Texans. Obviously, the second half wasn't pretty for them last week.
Right.
The Colts actually looked decent against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But I think these are going to be two teams that they don't win a lot of games, but they might compete in those games.
Right.
They're not going to be those powerhouse teams. They'll probably be like 3 to 4 win teams probably, but they'll look decent in those losses. I don't see them more than 3 to 4 win teams.
I mean, maybe 5, maybe 6 if we're stretching it a little bit. Depends, on who they can possibly take some wins from. They'll definitely take one win from each other, unless they both tie both times when they face off against each other, which I doubt you'll see 2 ties this season between the Colts and Texans.
Funny.
Although you never know at the same time.
No.
But Look, I mean, again, this game doesn't sound pretty. Both teams aren't the best, but when you look at the young talent they have, first year quarterbacks, and what that means not just for this year but for many more years to come, that's what makes this game a little more intriguing. Now, it's not going to compare to any of the other 1 o'clock games,
No.
but if you're looking at that storyline alone, Stroud versus Richardson, first time ever. Drafted between two slots in the first round. It's going to be a really intriguing matchup to see how those two guys play, especially against each other as division foes.
No, I do agree. I will go with the Colts in that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
I lean towards Indy also. I mean, Stroud's good, so is Richardson. I think Richardson played a lot better than
yes,
Stroud in the first week, but also keep in mind, CJ Stroud was good in college, but towards the end he was a little shaky. I
yeah,
thought Anthony Richardson was good in college at Florida. I thought he was a little overhyped and he was taken a little too high. But at the same time, we'll see how that pans out, and we'll see who takes, game one between these two quarterbacks.
yeah. No, 100%. All right. So the next one, and it's a team you're not a fan of as a Packers fan. We got the Bears versus the Bucks. Who do you got in this one?
Jason, I think you know who I'm going with, and I hope it's Tampa Bay. I mean, look, Tampa played great. Baker actually looked really good, which I was surprised. I mean, look, Baker Mayfield, he's either hit or miss.
Yep.
He's so hit or miss, I wouldn't give him the keys to my car. That's how much I don't trust Baker Mayfield. But I will say this. Baker looked very, very good versus Minnesota. And if he can do that with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the whole offense, and that very solid defense behind him, I won't complain.
Yeah.
Take down Minnesota, beat Chicago, start 2-0, help me out as a Green Bay fan. Baker, maybe I'll let you drive the car on weekends. I'm not sure.
I'll say it now. I'm gonna go with the Bucks on this one. I just, this is no hate towards Justin Fields. He's really fun to watch. Seeing him run down the field is incredible. Obviously he didn't do much of that in week one against you guys. But I don't know. He did not look great. And I don't know. He has a lot. He's very inconsistent, and it's not a good sign to say that Baker Mayfield's more consistent than somebody.
Well, look, I mean,
Um,
Justin Fields is another one of these Ohio State quarterbacks that are great in college,
yeah,
but when they start in the NFL, they don't do well, or in general, they just crap out in the
yeah,
National Football
yeah.
League,
No,
And Fields hasn't crapped out yet. I mean, he's been good in many ways, and he had some really solid games last year.
yes,
I wouldn't diss him over that one poor start. Now, for me, I'm thrilled that he played awful versus us and that Green Bay won the game and Jordan Love looked phenomenal. But for Justin Fields, this is a game he knows he needs to play better in. And honestly,
yeah,
if we see the same old Baker that always struggles, Justin Fields could turn it up and eventually power Chicago to a win in Florida. It is
yeah. No,
possible.
yeah. I feel like this one's a little bit of a hard one to call because it's a
Yeah,
battle of two quarterbacks who can
right.
both be inconsistent. And they could also turn the ball over, and
Yeah.
it's hard to make a prediction in a game like that. I'd probably say it's the hardest game to call this week. I mean, I know there's
I
some
don't know. Maybe. I mean, there's some other tough ones. I mean,
I'm saying more
Miami.
because of the quarterback
Yeah.
battle. It's two
No.
quarterbacks that could
Right.
throw 2 to 3 picks and not
Oh,
look
sure.
great. So
Oh, sure. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we all thought Baker would play awful versus Minnesota, and he ended up throwing for more than 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, won the game for him. So again,
yes,
we're not sure what we're getting until the game actually plays on.
yes,
But right now, if I'm gonna lean towards one team or the other, I'm more comfortable with Tampa Bay, especially with how solid their defense was last week against Minnesota.
yes. And what you just said, obviously, with the not knowing what's going to happen until the game actually plays out, I heard something last year actually during the basketball season I'll tie into that Chiefs-Lions game of on paper, you look at those rosters, the Chiefs should win that game, but there's a reason they actually play the game out, and it's that anything could happen in the game.
Right.
So
No, you're
you
right.
just never know. So yeah, for me, I will still stick with the Bucks, but it'll be an interesting one to watch. Again, we'll see if how both of those quarterbacks look. The next one, actually, we go right into another one that's really hard to call because obviously it went from a really bad week to, a team with a really bad week to a team with a good one. We got the Chiefs Jaguars, which I think is going to be a really fun game. What do you got?
Jason, honestly, that one's going to be the hardest to call this week. It's not going to be Chicago Tampa because again, uh, either team can be up 20-0 and blow out the other team, and that'll be it. But for this game, Jacksonville's 1-0, Kansas City's 0-1. Travis Kelce, of course, got banged up last time, couldn't come back. I don't believe he's playing in week 2. I might be wrong on
I
that,
haven't heard anything.
but I know for sure that Patrick Mahomes struggled a lot without his big tight end. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling's a solid receiver, but he's not good enough to be your number one guy.
No,
And that's what cost Kansas City that game. And also, just Patrick Mahomes was not Patrick Mahomes like
no.
against Detroit. The fact that he threw that pick six interception, I think, said a lot about his performance. And for a team like Jacksonville, who, yes, they were in a close matchup versus the Colts last week, Jacksonville has the momentum with the win. They're going to play at home. Kansas City has to travel following that tough loss. And again, that's a game where we could see Mahomes go off, or we see Mahomes like last week,
Yeah.
or we see a close game back and forth. Maybe KC has a lead, but Jacksonville pulls out at the last hour and wins the game at home at the expense of the defending champs. So
Yep.
it's really a back and forth seesaw. It really depends on Mahomes, but it also depends on Trevor Lawrence. Because Trevor
Yes.
Lawrence is a very solid quarterback, and he looked pretty good
Yeah, he
versus
did.
Indy.
Yeah, he had I want to say it was a throw to Zay Jones. He had a really beautiful touchdown that he snuck in there in the corner
Right.
to
And not just that, Jacksonville's defense also is very solid as well. Josh Allen got to Richardson so many times in week 1. If he gets to Mahomes many times in week 2, it's not going to be pretty for Kansas City in Jacksonville. So,
Yep.
honestly, you could go either way, but based off what we saw in week 1, and again, a very small sample size, I'm going to play the guy who tries to, make things more spicy. I'm leaning towards Jacksonville in this game. And I think Jacksonville could, if not win the game outright versus Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go Jacksonville on this one. Again, if Kelsey's still banged up, you can't win a game without a solid number one guy.
Oh, sure.
The whole offense of the Chiefs is very different when Kelsey's out of the lineup. We had Butterfingers, Kadarius Toney playing in the first game, and
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just
that was a
obviously
mess.
look this game needs to be a much better game for him. If not, he could very well get cut if it's somehow the same
I
level
mean,
of that game or worse, because he
Jason,
did cost him that
yeah.
game.
Oh no, he did with those 3 horrible drops. But it's only week 2, and let's not forget this guy was a big reason why they won the Super Bowl back in February. So I'm not sure if you cut him after 2 weeks. If this continues for at least a month, and this happens again and again and again,
Yeah.
and Mahomes is just frustrated, then he'll definitely get cut. But again, this is a game where, again, like I said before, if Kansas City has their A game and Tony makes great catches and makes great plays, then they're going to beat Jacksonville. But
Yep.
based off what we saw, I think Jacksonville has the win. But at the same time, I think, again, you look at the scenarios going in, you saw how shaken up Mahomes was. The Chiefs haven't played in over a week since.
Yep.
And I think at the same time, when you look at the way Jacksonville just looks so, well structured, now that they're bringing that home in front of their fans for the first time this season, they're going to really want it to keep it going. And let's
Yes.
not forget, this was the AFC divisional game last year. And Jacksonville made things really, really close until Kansas City, of course, won the game
Yep.
and
No,
defeated
100%.
the Jaguars. So it could be similar in that sense. But again, the fact that it's in Jacksonville, give the Jags the edge.
Yeah, I agree. I do. Especially if there's no Kelsey. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think the Jaguars had the better offense if Kelsey's not there.
Yeah.
The next game, and you're gonna dread talking about this one. We got Packers Falcons.
Jason, I'm I'm very thrilled with how Jordan Love played. Now, for those who know me, I was very upset when they drafted him. I was very upset when they kept losing in the playoffs because of the great play calls of Matt LaFleur. I was very upset when they made all these cheap signings yet again. They screw over Aaron Rodgers. They don't make the playoffs. They miss the Super Bowl chance. They blow it all. Now they trade Rodgers away, and honestly, I expect misery. But you know what? Jordan Love for at least 1 week shut my mouth. And I'm very happy to hear that because Jordan Love played absolutely phenomenal against the Bears. 15 completions for over 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an 18-point win against the Bears in Chicago. Jordan Love looked phenomenal. And the fact that he just walked out there, first drive, touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs, had 3 touchdowns altogether. And the fact that Green Bay was just so magnificent.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to see what he does versus Atlanta. And Atlanta played a crummy Carolina team and won. But now that Green Bay comes off the win and they're on the road again to Atlanta, this time indoors, you got to give the Pack the edge. And not just because of Jordan Love and the offense, but the Packers defense was so solid on containing Chicago's run game, and they also got tons of pressure to Justin Fields. So if they can continue that to Desmond Ridder and limit Atlanta's offense, it'll be a great win for Green Bay. And honestly, I hope that's the case. Jordan Love looked phenomenal. Hopefully Christian Watson's healthy. Hopefully Aaron Jones is healthy. You know, he got shaken up following that touchdown with his hamstring. Not sure if they'll play or not on Sunday, both those players, Watson and Jones. But right now, Green Bay looks really good, and I'm very satisfied with that Week 1 win.
Yeah, again, you guys looked amazing, and I did expect you guys to lose that game, actually. I'm not gonna sit in.
Jason, I thought Chicago was going to run us out of town.
Yeah.
But whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Brett Favre, or even Ronald McDonald, the Packers own the Bears, and they own them especially at Soldier Field in Chicago.
Yep. I mean, there's not too much for me to say about this. I was very impressed with you guys. And again, the Falcons, they're 1-0, but that win wasn't even like they didn't.
Carolina is going to be so much worse than Atlanta this year. It's not going to be funny.
Yeah. I just, that win doesn't say much about what Atlanta's going to look like. I mean, let's be real. They're by far in the worst division in football, Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
If they win that division, that's the only reason why. I guarantee you the team that wins that division has at most 7 to 8 wins, I'd probably say.
I mean, 8, but New Orleans ain't terrible, and they played well versus Tennessee. So maybe New Orleans. I mean, they'll probably win the division outright no matter what. But I can see it with maybe 9 wins at most.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get into one more before it actually ends the meeting and we have to restart because I don't have pro. We have to restart. So let's get into one more. I think this is a pretty easy one to cover. Raiders versus Bills. Who do you got?
I don't know if it's easy. That one's going to be a little similar to Chiefs-Jaguars because we're either getting Josh Allen, who's the MVP caliber player, or we're getting the Josh Allen who is horrific to watch, throws 3 picks to the same guy versus the New York Jets and loses the game in overtime, despite the fact Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles in that same exact game. So it all depends on how Buffalo starts and plays as a whole because the Raiders barely beat Denver. They were good, but they weren't great. So it all depends on how Vegas plays. It all depends on Buffalo's offense because if Josh Allen crumbles and things aren't working out, then it's going to be another mess this time at home in Western New York. So it's kind of a coin toss. I'll lean towards Buffalo. I'll give Josh Allen the benefit of the doubt because Vegas is good, but they barely beat a pretty bad Denver team. And Jacoby Myers got hurt and not sure if he'll play. And the Raiders had some couple of mistakes and they have some injuries already. So that, and also keep in mind, Buffalo is not an easy place to play at.
No, not at all.
So I'll give the Bills the benefit of the doubt, but don't be surprised if Vegas somehow pulls off a win and
Yeah.
they start 2-0 when the Bills could start 0-2.
Yes. The one thing I will say, I do think again the Raiders could steal one, but I am gonna go with the Bills on this one. I do think they're gonna come out hungry and maybe even angry after that performance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't see how Allen lets himself have two miserable performances in a row. You know, that game, and he even took responsibility. That game was on
Yeah.
him completely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as soon as Aaron Rodgers went down, that game should have been in the bag. They should have had that game locked up. There's no reason they should have lost to Zach Wilson.
Well, I mean,
Um,
look, I mean, Zach Wilson's not a great quarterback, but Zach
yeah.
Wilson played pretty darn good enough to force overtime and win the game eventually.
No, he did. But you look at that matchup, and there's no reason Josh Allen should let himself lose that
Oh,
game.
you're right. You're right.
So I do think they will come out hungry. Again, it is a coin toss. Anything I feel like could happen. Because again, I don't know. I don't know if maybe we're looking at a potentially bad year for Allen. I know it's only week one, but you know that was not a good sign. I mean, you know, the Jets do have a good defense, but that was pretty ugly that game from him.
Well,
Four
I mean,
turnovers,
yeah. I
and
mean,
we have 1 minute by the way. So
okay. It's so intriguing how you have all these quarterbacks, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, starting off so bad. One of them might have a really bad year,
yeah.
and they're all going to have to wake up in week 2. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. All right. Okay, so the next game I want to cover is Chargers Titans. What do you got on that one?
You know, San Diego, LA, San Diego, whatever they are. LA Chargers. The fact that they lost that game to Miami, I think just how poor defense is. I mean, Herbert and the offense, Herbert was all right, but the offense as a whole played phenomenal. The fact that they
Yes.
put up 34 points and still lost the game tells you a lot. But their defense really cost them. And Tennessee is not that good of a team, even now with DeAndre Hopkins. Ryan Tannehill was an utter disaster at 3 picks versus New Orleans. So
Yep.
you lean towards the Chargers for sure. And the thing is, though, on that, Jason, can the Chargers defense actually hold their ground? You can't
Yes.
give up 36 points and expect to win a game.
No.
So with how bad Tennessee is, I don't see how they're going to allow 36 points again. Miami's a different story. Tua played phenomenal. Tyreek Hill played out of his mind. That Miami defense is really, really good when Tua's on point. But it's a different team than that. And we know that Tennessee's shaky, and their defense can be also shaky.
Yes.
So it's really the Chargers team to lose, and the big deal would be this defense. Can they actually hold the Titans offense? But also, don't give up all these points and think, oh, we can still win the game. No, you got to play strong defense along with your solid offense. So that's going to be the two keys for the Chargers. If that actually happens, I'll just LA in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. I am gonna again. This game, as you were saying, it kind of all comes down to the Chargers defense. Again, they repeatedly took the lead against the Dolphins, and they just gave it right back over and over. The defense is
Right.
the issue. And I feel like that is a problem for those overpowered offense teams. The defense for them typically is weak. That happens to the Chiefs a lot. That's why they're in high scoring games, especially with them not having Chris Jones. It's even worse. But yeah, I think
that's true.
overall, you do look at the Chargers. I think they are the better offense. You got Austin Eckler, you got Keenan Allen, you got Mike Williams. You know, if the defense could hold strong, I do think the Chargers win this game. I think it is gonna, seeing how last week was, I think it might be a down year for Derrick Henry. Again, I also don't trust Tannehill, so yeah, I'm gonna go Chargers on this one. The next game that's actually kind of interesting because
No, I mean, yeah.
he looked good. So I'm gonna have to, ask you what you think on the 49ers versus Rams. Stafford looked good last week, so I'm curious on what you think on this one.
Jason, talking about Brock Purdy, talking about the San Francisco offense that was insane versus Pittsburgh, and Brock Purdy, say what about his UCL tear, looked phenomenal. Brock Purdy is legit.
Yep.
in all honesty, is this really a question?
No, it's not. I'm
I
just
don't care
curious.
how good Matthew Stafford looked. No, I know, but Matthew Stafford looked fine. I get it, and Seattle did not look good. But San Francisco has a solid offense, easily the best defense in the National Football League. And whether the game's in LA or San Fran, I'm not sure. Either way, San
I believe
Francisco is
it's
going to
in
win this
LA.
game because they're the better. Okay. So they're on the road. The Rams barely have any fan base whatsoever. The 49ers fan base is strong. They've traveled all the way down to LA in the past to see their team. Look, San Francisco, I think, is going to win this game. And Brock Purdy, with how good he was again, proves why he is Brock Purdy. And Brandon Ayuk has been such a key target so far for him, and guaranteed it's only one game. But Ayuk, George Kittle, this offensive machine with Brock Purdy as the quarterback is really something to watch. And we
Oh,
saw it
yeah.
again unfold at the expense of Pittsburgh. So, in all honesty, Stafford looked great. The Rams were good. Their defense was solid. But I don't see that Rams defense getting so much pressure to Brock Purdy like they did to Geno Smith.
No.
At the same time, with how good the San Fran defense is, with Nick Bosa now back in action, how can
Yeah.
this San Fran defense not shut down the Rams offense?
Yes. There's not much I gotta say on this game. I will say Niners do win it. You know, how do you stop this Niners offense? You got McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Ayuk, who probably had one of his best games in a
Yep.
long time. Purdy looks good.
Yep.
This team is scary. To be honest, this could be
No,
the team that wins the NFC this year. This team is scary.
I mean, look, again, if Brock Purdy did not tear his UCL last year, they probably would have beaten Philadelphia. And look, Philadelphia was the better team technically, and I think Philadelphia still would have won. But at the same time, if Purdy's healthy in that game, it's easily a 7-point game, maybe
Yep.
even less than that. But now that Purdy is back, he looked great. The San Fran offense is back in full swing. If we see Philadelphia, San Fran again, and if the Eagles, like we said, do struggle a little bit in these first couple games,
Yeah.
especially the way they played versus New England, if San Fran just plays a full game every single contest, and let's say Purdy is healthy the whole long way through,
Yeah.
you got to lean towards the 49ers.
Yes, 100%. All right, the next game, it's not even a game that needs much coverage. I'm pretty sure we know what's going to happen, even though how bad the Giants looked last week. We got the Giants and Cardinals. What do you think on that one?
I mean, first off, Jason, I'm very sorry to see your reaction when we talked last week to that horrific clown show called the New York Giants football. And the fact that that was your home opener on national television on NBC, you lost 40-0 to Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, look, I've had some good pastrami sandwiches. They're always overrated half the time. Dak Prescott is just like an overrated pastrami sandwich, okay? That's as simple as that. And whether you're paying $5, $10, $20 for the sandwich, or you're paying Dak Prescott $45 million, you cannot lose that game 40-0, whether you're Daniel Jones or Tom Brady. The
No,
point
I
is
agree.
this. I don't know what to expect for the New York Giants. I know what to expect for the Arizona Cardinals. They stink. Kyler Murray is not playing this year. And despite them stinking, they gave Washington a pretty good run for the money.
Yep.
So this game all depends on the Giants. Is Daniel Jones going to really drop an egg again? Or is Arizona going to just be Arizona? That's the
Yeah.
big question. So really, you're not going to know who wins this game until you actually see it start at 4:25 Eastern.
Yes. I will say, obviously, it depends on which team craps out. But on paper, you got to think the Giants bounce back and win this game. Again, anything could happen.
You
It's
would
why
think,
play the games, but I do
right.
think Daniel Jones wants to come out and have a better game.
Jason, you would think, but you would hope.
Yes.
And for the sake of the Giants fans and for the Giants as a whole and for how good of a season they had last year, Look, it's only 2 games, but if they start 0-2 and it's another disastrous shutout, this time to Arizona, out of all places, you're in trouble.
Yes, no,
And you're going to have
100%.
a lot of angry people, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. This actually, even though it's week 2, this actually is a must win for the Giants. They cannot lose this game.
Oh, sure. No,
You can't go
no.
and lose.
Of course. I mean, and again, Arizona is supposed to be horrible. We know
Yes,
how bad they're going to be this year.
yes,
The Giants are supposed to be somewhat good and maybe make the playoffs again. But
yes,
that performance on Sunday Night Football,
yes.
that doesn't give you much hope.
No, you could. If you're the Giants, you cannot go from losing 40-0 to losing to the Cardinals. This is a must win.
And especially if you get shut out in Arizona. Look,
Yeah, well, you got to figure something out if that was to happen.
If they play that bad again, the only team that will also score more points than the New York Giants is the air conditioning in the stadium in Phoenix, Arizona. That's about it, because the amount of people they're going to keep cool and somewhat sane in that game is going to be the air conditioning to make sure people don't pass out.
Yep. All right, moving on. We had that.
Those will be the only 2 people who win on Sunday if the Giants are that bad.
Yeah. All right, we are moving to our final 5 games for the week. We got
Okay.
Jets versus Cowboys. What do you got in this one?
Oh, goodness gracious. Look, I feel so bad for Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have been cursed since Joe Namath, and they will be cursed till the world ends. That's how bad the Jets are, and they will never catch a break. They can bring in Rodgers, they can bring in Favre, they can bring in Vinny Testaverde. What's the similarity? They all got hurt in their first and somewhat only years with the Jets, because Favre played only 1 season with the Jets. So they all got injured. They all missed the playoffs. And Testaverde had a similar injury to Aaron Rodgers and was done for the year after a couple snaps.
Yeah.
So the Jets with Zach Wilson, you hope they win the game, but you're either going to get Zach Wilson, who was able to muster somewhat of a victory versus the Bills, or we're getting Zach Wilson, who's an absolute disaster, and I'd rather see a 5-year-old play out there. So I'm not sure what to get. At the same time, the reason why the Dallas Cowboys are 1-0 is because of how bad the New York Giants really are.
Yes, I don't think that. No, I'm gonna say it now. I don't think the Cowboys are as good as they looked. I think it was just a poor performance of the Giants.
Well, again, it's only 1 game, and Dallas is a good team, and they'll be at home. So you got to give Dallas the win. They'll be 2-0 because they played some pretty bad teams, especially now with Rodgers out for the season.
Yes.
So I think Dallas wins the game, but they're not going to impress the whole world by beating the Giants and Jets to kick off the season.
No, 100%. I'm going to go with the Cowboys as well. Even though he looked decent, I don't trust Zach Wilson. He could, have that good game, but then his next game, he could just absolutely crap out and just be the Zach Wilson of old.
Well, it's the same thing with Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott, again, he's not that good.
No.
I mean, I mentioned the whole pastrami thing already, but seriously, he's overrated like those sandwiches. And being from New York, pastrami's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But once in a while, it could be a little too much, and it's kind of overpriced or overrated or what have you. That is exactly the contract of Dak Prescott.
I'm curious on your opinion before we move on to the final 4 games. Somebody said to me, and I'm curious your opinion here, do you think by the end of the year, Dak could lose his job to Trey Lance?
It depends how bad Dak plays this year. If he's hurt, maybe. But it depends when. If he's, let's say, God forbid, he gets hurt this Sunday, he won't lose the job. Yeah. But if it's halfway through the season or it's towards the end and Dallas needs to make a playoff spot and Dak gets hurt or Dak plays just horrific, and Trey Lance is competent enough to get them a win to make the postseason, but not just make the postseason, to actually win a game in the postseason. Yes. If Trey Lance can actually win a game for him, then maybe. Yeah. Now, Dak Prescott beat Tom Brady last year. Okay, fine. But after that, back down the toilet. Yeah. So if you really look at it, Dak Prescott could just keep his job again by the skin of his legs, or Trey Lance comes in and Dak, he's gone, and they're going to have to pay him all that money. So I don't really know. I don't think it will lead to that in general.
Yeah.
But if it does, that could be how that happens.
Yes. Okay. The next game we got is a game that I have no clue because it's two teams that are just going to be not good this season, in my opinion. The Commanders Broncos. Who do you have?
Washington.
You
Washington
got
played very good. Sam Howell looked pretty decent. And you know what? Despite them almost losing to Arizona, they played a pretty solid game.
Yep.
So you got to give it to Washington. And look, Denver, ever since Russell Wilson stepped foot in the state of
It's been a
Colorado,
mess.
it's been horrific.
Yes.
And Jason, who goes for an onside kick on the first play of the game? Sean
Yeah.
Payton has just lost it. I mean, look, good coach in the past, won a Super Bowl, was a Fox or CBS, sports personality for a while. Just get him off the field. The old
He's been
man's got to
around
go.
Russell Wilson for a few weeks, and that's what he does.
I mean, no, I somewhat get the strategy, but that was just pathetic. And
But
you know what?
Yeah.
They still won it, but they still also lost the game still.
Yes.
They blew it.
The thing is, dude, if you don't get that, you give it to them at center field to start the game. I just don't get that decision.
Look, I don't know. I think Washington wins. I think they'll be 2-0. Denver's just a mess.
Yep. No, I agree. I don't, I know Judy, I think sounds like he might play, but he's still banged up. Sutton's okay. That team's not good. I guarantee you they get like 3 wins this year, Denver. All right. The
I
next
don't know
game.
about 3, but maybe 5.
Okay. The next game, Sunday Night Football. We're down to the final 3 games we're talking about. And I think this is going to be a fun one, despite the fact that I'm not a big Mac Jones guy. I don't think he's that great. We got Dolphins versus Patriots. Who do you got?
Before, we're talking about Chiefs, Jaguars. We're talking about Raiders, Bills. This is also a coin flip because Mac Jones looked pretty good towards the end.
Yes.
Had a shaky start, but Ball was able to make things, more competitive towards the end with those 3 nice touchdowns.
Yep.
So it's either Mac Jones plays well or awful, obviously, and the same thing for Tua. So the big deal is going to be the quarterbacks. If Tua, I don't see Tua putting up more than 400 yards for a second straight week, but if he has a strong game and Tyreek Hill helps him out a lot, they're going to win the game.
Yes.
But if New England plays bad and Mac Jones struggles again, then we're going to see some problems. So, again, this all depends on either squad. To be honest with you, I'm going to lean towards Miami because they have the win, and Tua played really, really good.
Yep.
And again, Mac Jones was good, but in the beginning and also towards the end, not the best types of decisions he made. So I'll lean towards the Dolphins on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go Dolphins as well. The one thing is I've kind of noticed with Mac Jones, it takes him a little bit to get into the game.
Yeah.
He definitely starts off very slow. And against that Miami offense, you can't afford that. You really can't.
Right.
The only thing that Miami has is going against him, and it's not even going to be that big of an effect. I don't know if you heard that supposedly Waddle's playing through an injury.
Oh, wow.
But still, you still have Tyreek out there, and the dude's insane. The dude honestly could put up a 2,000-yard season if at the over 200 week 1. It's very, very possible. Again, I don't have too much of an opinion on this. I think the Dolphins are gonna win this. I think obviously the Dolphins defense isn't great, so Mac Jones might not look too awful, but I think the Dolphins do win this one. Now we got our final 2, and these are both Monday Night Footballs. I love the fact that we got 2 games on Monday. We got as much as I'm not too big on this one, we got Saints Panthers. Who do you got?
New Orleans, easy decision. Bryce Young's going to be good, but Derek Carr is a lot better right now. And the Saints look pretty good. So, come on, Jason.
Yeah.
The Saints.
Yeah, I got the Saints in this one too. Look, I don't think, the Panthers aren't going to be good. I think towards like the midway point of the season, they might start to play better.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a slow build with that team. Which kind of sucks because I feel like they're wasting what could be the last year of Adam Thielen's career.
Yeah, possible.
So, it kind of sucks to see that. But, yeah, I have to go the Saints in this one. Overall, they got a better team. Finally looking to be a healthy Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
They got Jamal Williams, Olave. tight end looks good. Johnson, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
They
Chris
look good.
Olave is going to be a key piece to this offense. And the fact that he has a quarterback who's pretty good now throwing towards him,
Yes.
Derek Carr and Chris Olave could be a pretty strong connection in
Yes.
2023.
I got the Saints team to win the division this year.
Yep.
It's and what we said earlier, a very mediocre division. Like
Yep.
it's definitely the worst division in the league.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean the Saints look not the biggest Derek Carr fan. He collapses in massive situations, but I have to lean towards him on this one, and I'll go Saints. At final game and one that's gonna be really excited because these games are really freaking intense always. Browns versus Steelers. Who do you got?
That's a good one. Brown Steelers, huh? Look, Cleveland played good. Pittsburgh was not great, but we're also going off the fact that Cleveland played a bad Joe Burrow on a bad day, and
Yep.
Pittsburgh was not going to beat San Fran to begin with. So
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards Cleveland for now. I think they'll beat Pittsburgh. It depends who the Steelers are that game, but also how the Browns play, especially on offense. Can Watson play well again? Can the run game be strong? Can the defense shut down Kenny Pickett? Those will be some big key questions. And for right now, I'll lean toward Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going with Cleveland as well. I don't have a lot of, hope right now in that Pittsburgh offense. And I like Kenny Pickett actually. I think the kid's gonna be a really big star. Maybe not this year, but maybe in the next couple of years. With how that Browns defense looked, they don't have Deontay Johnson, the Steelers. He's doubtful for this week.
Yeah,
So I just don't see them without Deontay Johnson. I know they have George Pickens, they have Freiermuth.
sure.
They have Najee Harris, but I just don't see them competing with that Cleveland team. That's the first time I feel like I've said that in a really long time that somebody's gonna have trouble competing with Cleveland. But um but yeah, I do think Cleveland's the better team. Uh and it might be a close one. It's certainly gonna be a better game for the Steelers than the Niners game. It can't get
Yep,
much worse than that. They just did not
yep.
look good at all in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got to go Cleveland. And honestly, I think this is going to be an exciting week too. I think there's some really fun games, some good potential out there for these games. Um, but yeah, I do think I could actually I could see that being a kind of high scoring game.
Yeah, could. We'll see how it plays out, Jay.
Yeah. All right, though, Alex. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you joining. And yeah, dude, I'm gonna do this every week. So if you ever want to come back on, we could talk about the games. Hit me up.
That works for me. We'll see how it plays out in week 2. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We gave you our full week 2 predictions. If you guys are new here, drop a sub, leave a like on the video, leave a comment on your predictions for the week. I think it's going to be an exciting week of football. And yeah, we're going to be doing this every week, so hope to see you guys around here. Peace, YouTube.